right, Rocky Mountain Man. I'm gonna just kind of do a run through of this from setup, doing the rules, some of the basic points. I'm not gonna do a full playthrough; it'll take too long. It's just, it's been a strange year, and I thought this might be just nice to have like a little something to sit down and play through the winter. So here we go. Let's open it up and look at it. The game comes with crayons. There's oddly a crayon shortage right now. The Crayola rep told me that the crayons are hard to get right now due to the pandemic. All kids need to buy their own set of crayons. So these were hard to get, and they come in two different types. There's going to be a green, a blue, and a black color in some, and some will have just darker colors instead of black because they're just running out. So we just needed darker colors, so the purple and the brown can kind of work as a black. I don't know which set I'll play when I'm playing, but anyhow, you might have a set with one of these two types of colors. Inside the folio, we have the primary table section, which is going to be referred to. There's many tables in this game. Somewhere in there, in the making of it, it's just kind of like hell. I'm going to make as many tables as it needs. I could have gone even more with tables, but I figured this, there's enough definitely here. There's going to be a counters, rule book, a map key that tells you how to draw the different terrains with the turn sequence on the back. Seasonal cards, which we're going to have to cut out along the middle here for the seasons of the year. This would only be for a campaign game. The map itself, which can be drawn on and erased with tissue paper. The tribe policy table when encountering different tribes in the game. On the back, there's just a rendezvous table whenever you're at the Rocky Mountain Rendezvous. The different cards we're going to have to cut out. They're two-sided, I'll explain that, but first I'm going to cut them out. It's 36 cards. And then you've got your Mountain Man outfitting sheets. It comes with 4 different sheets, and you can Xerox the back of this, or I'll put a file up as well, a PDF, so you can just print this out. Right, I'm going to cut up these cards, and then I'm going to set it up and then explain everything after the setup. All right, I set this up. I'm going to just kind of put this right here in front of everything. You can do that. You can put it wherever you like, but anyhow, the map, the encounters, the north ones in the north. So the map, let me talk about the map. So the map is in 3 sections. This north region, central, and south. The north encounters go towards the north, the central and the central. These will show up here, and the south and the south. We're going to put the site counters here. I don't know, I just decided to put them there. Then shuffling the exploration cards, I'm going to put them face up. This is going to be the exploration side. The other side is the warpath, which is an occasional table that might come in the game every once in a while. The Mountain Man counters will come in with a mapped counter, which will not be used. I'm just going to do a solo game. These are not going to be used in the solo game, so they can go back into the bag, but I'll keep them out to show you why you would use them. You have 5 traps, your main crew counter with the strength of the crew is either going to be 1 combat value, or if you flip it over to 2 combat value. The group can be broken up into smaller groups, which are group A, B, and C. On the other side is a cache, if you want to make a cache of something. You have your cabin that you might want to build in the wintertime, and your trading post, which will end the campaign game. If you're not going to play a campaign game, you can just put these back in the bag. I'm going to do a campaign example, so we're going to put the spring in play. It starts with spring. I have my table, my tribal table policy sheet handy. Sequence of play, with also on the other side the map key in case I need to know how to draw stuff. My outfitting sheet. Also in the campaign game, we're going to put the rendezvous counter on one of these rendezvous areas. So I'm going to roll. Number 2, it's going to go up here. So the rendezvous will happen once a year in Wyoming, or it'll happen next year in Wyoming. So it's not going to happen this year, but next year it will happen in Wyoming. My group counter is can go start at one of these Missouri spaces. I'm going to start on this one, just because. So this map is of Colorado to about here, that we know of Colorado today, and then over here would be Utah that we know today. And if you live in Colorado, you would see a mountain range, and then further this way would be just plains. So we're starting with just the mountain range, and in this mountain range, what we have here are different terrain types. So you'll see little different quadrants of terrain, and here would be the plains. Anything with gray is rocky area. This is the Rockies in this area. This would be mesa territory, and over here would be desert territory. That's important for noting the different types of terrains you might have to make when you're making your map, when you're mapping out. In the game, people had to go all the way back to cities at this time. There was no place you could go to re-outfit. So the nearest city would be St. Louis, and at that time, rivers were like highways, and so you would take the Arkansas River, maybe all the way to Mississippi River, and then cut up to St. Louis. This is a reference to if you were to go catch the Missouri River more up north, you could take the Missouri River and go all the way back to St. Louis. So we can start in either one of these Missouri areas, and so I'm going to start there, and we're going to play the game from there. After I've set up, I then would begin outfitting, and I'll go through outfitting right now. All right, Rocky Mountain Man is a game about the mountain men of the early 19th century, of the early 1800s. They were commonly just business people or people that had skills in hunting or whatnot that figured they could make a trade in trapping. And in doing this, they also were discovering the West and mapping out the West and interacting with the natives there and meeting the tribes and figuring out what this West was of the United States. This game is going to be it can be played in different ways. You can play it in sort of a short sit down session, or you can play it in a longer campaign setting and sort of just keep it up, playing it for however long it may take. In the short time session, the short sessions are timed, and at least if you're playing with another person, they're going to be timed, and you just play a 2-hour session, and then you score victory points after the 2-hour session. In solitary game, you will play for goals, and you could explore the entire Colorado River, come back and go back to Missouri, and then you've completed a goal, or go all the way to the Great Lake of Utah and come back and go to Missouri, and you'll have finished a shorter game. But the campaign game, which I'll do in this setup and play through, you will end the game when you finally make a trading post. On the map here, we have rendezvous spaces in the game. They're because people would have to go all the way back to Missouri. It started to create a need to try to re-outfit more near the actual mountaineering and more near the trapping. So people developed something called the Rocky Mountain Rendezvous, which was this congregation of all the trappers and different tribes would come and re-outfit and gain their stuff for the year. And this is seen on this map at this time in history, which the game sort of takes place, which is around 1820 or so. The rendezvous was invented, and the rendezvous would kind of go around and be in a different part of the area per year. And this just kind of reflects that each year is a little bit different. Eventually, the rendezvous settled in a place called Daniel, Wyoming. This game is also based on Source of the Nile. Source of the Nile is, to me, a very great game based on exploration of Africa and the Nile River. And there are a lot of similarities to this, but this probably has many more tables than that. But overall, the basic skeleton is the same. And so there are differences, but overall, the main core is the same type of game. So if you've ever played that, you should be able to pick this up pretty easily. All right, so I'm going to do my outfitting. So everyone's going to get 1,100 money or dollars, and you get to outfit your crew. This is the crew you're going to be taking out, and you have to go all the way back to one of these Missouri spaces to re-outfit, or wait till the rendezvous session to re-outfit in the rendezvous. So what you do now, you're going to be kind of stuck with until you have a potential to go back to Missouri. And I suppose you could go back to Missouri at any time. You could take a few turns and go, hey, I don't like what I have, and go back. But let's assume you don't, and you just go out in the field. So I have in the rules a suggestion of what you can do, and I'll just do the suggestion here. But you can really modify this in any way that you like. However you want to go with what you want to do with your money, you can do. I will do the advanced. I'm going to do the advanced outfitting with the weight, because I personally find the weight just is more interesting strategically. If you say that they can take whatever they want weight-wise, it is easier, and you don't have to deal with that rule. But it is less realistic, and I think you'd get away with more. You might win faster. I don't know. There could be a lot of things that could happen by not doing the weight advancement. But I'm going to do the weight advancement in this. You can just ignore what I'm saying when I'm talking about it if you are just doing a basic outfitting. So first and foremost, you have a leader. So your leader can be any one of these skills: soldier, hunter, businessman, doctor, or guide. Well, not a guide. I'm sorry. Soldier, hunter, businessman, or doctor. In the suggestion, it says, why not just try businessman? Now, businessman, each one of these skills, I just put a BM or just a B. Each one of these skills has a particular ability that will help them when they're out on the map. So businessman is good for negotiating and trying to interact with tribes. And so I just will make my leader a businessman. And actually, the mountaineering, there were plenty of businessmen that were mountain men that were making a business of trapping, and it was pretty common. Then in the outfitting, I say 2 soldiers. I mark this by just putting that. You could do 2S or something like this. I am just noting there are 2 soldiers. And this all costs money. So your money and your outfitting, these guys are going to cost for the year. Your businessman is free. So the crew member is going to be $50 each. So I'm taking off $100 in just that. And I'll do all the pricing in the end. I'll kind of show you how the pricing works. And then I say, why don't you do 2 hunters? And so we just do 2 hunters. And then 1 doctor. And because I already have a businessman, I don't need to invest in a businessman. I have the skill to be a businessman. And then there's guides. I'm saying 2 guides in what I suggest. Now the guides are from actual tribes, so they will be related to a tribe. The rules have a choice of what tribe you will do. In the suggestion, I say 1 Ute, so I'll do 1 Ute and 1 Shoshone. Now this is, if you confront these tribes, if you encounter a Ute tribe or a Shoshone tribe, you're going to have a little bit of advantage because you have a guide that speaks that language and is part of that tribe, and they may be more kind to you. I put Ute because Ute is going to be the primary tribe you're going to see in the mountains of Colorado and Utah. In fact, Utah is etymologically this from the term Ute. So the Utes are a major tribe in this area. So I almost sometimes it's good to just have two Utes, but you may encounter some of these other tribes, and I believe in the die count of the counters, I think Shoshone's the second most, if I remember right. So I think I did that. So anyhow, then you have these potentials for tourist and garrison, but you cannot do tourist until the next year or the next time you go back to an outfitting potential. And the tourists you can kind of take along and they'll pay money. And now I noticed that I have created a typo right there. That's actually should be 50. Tourists will pay $50 for every site that they see, and then we'll talk. Well, why don't we talk about sites? So in the game, you might discover a couple things like the sand dunes or hot springs or other other things like this. A tourist you can take with you. There's a couple that are already in play, like Pikes Peak and the Royal Gorge. Every site that you see, the tourist will pay you money, but we're not beginning with that, so don't even worry about that. So anyhow. Then we do horses, and I recommend that everybody has at least a horse. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people. I could do 8 horses, but I'm going to do 10 horses because you never know. They could be killed. Or horses can be used to kind of as a gift to tribes to kind of get them on the nice side. And so you can negotiate with them, trade with them, be friendly with them. So I'm going to do 10 horses, and then I'm going to need, and because I am doing a game based on weight and weighing the stuff that I actually am carrying with me, you should do pack mount as well. So I'll do 2 pack mount. These guys, you cannot ride the pack mounting horses. You can just use them to carry things. And then I do 50 rations. This is actually a lot of rations. You don't. 30 is probably fine, but for a beginner game, 50 is pretty good, and you'll probably be fine with 50. And then 10 rifles. Again, you want to have a rifle per person just in case. And then extra rifles could be good gifts. In Source of the Nile, you could actually buy gifts, but in this, we're not. I don't really have any gifts that you can buy. While there was probably gifts, and there probably was a generic kind of gift, but interactions with the tribes, as far as I could tell, and it wasn't so gift giving as something like Source of the Nile. It was it just didn't sound as gift giving in that sense, so I didn't add gifts. Canoes are good if you want to start like taking advantage of moving around with a river, and maybe you'll find other rivers that might be good moving around. I find this game is not as dependent on river travel as Source of the Nile, but it certainly is potential. It's certainly something you might want to consider. But right now at the beginning of the game, I think it's not something you need to consider because you're going to be exploring, and you can always trade with the tribes to get a canoe later on if you want one. So I don't start with a canoe, but I might get one later. And let's see, I think that's about it. And now again about the sheet, the other things. If you create other groups, you can take notes in whatever this other group may be. So you could break off from the original group, and this guy could be another group. This might be good for trapping, having someone sticking around trapping, or many different people kind of going around discovering things. It depends how you want to do it. On the other side, you can make a cache of something, and this is something definitely in Source of the Nile. If you are filled up to the brim, especially in weight considerations, you may want to keep some pelts or some rifles. You might want to put them in a cache and leave them out in the wild. Now, if you're playing with another player, they cannot find your cache, and it's going to be okay when you put it out there. No one's going to take it. So you have different kind of note areas for that. You have an area for tribe encounters. So when you encounter a tribe, you would write down what tribe it is, if they're friendly, or actually what the encounter was. That will be a kind of a note, any kind of a note you might want to take, because you may encounter this tribe again and again, and any particular notes that you might have otherwise of the tribe. You have the crew weight, which I'll do in a moment. You have starvation. There's a potential that people could starve. So during an eating session, if the entire crew cannot eat, you'll have to mark a starvation. If you go through 5 starvations, you have a guy abandon your crew. Explored hexes. You're going to be exploring hexes, and you're going to mark down in whatever fashion you want to do the exploration of hexes and passes. You have discoveries. You might find little discoveries that might give you victory points, and this is important. In this game, when you discover something, you have only the potential of creating those victory points. It is not until you go back to Missouri or the rendezvous and share this information with others does it actually become victory points that are solidified. They are just potentials of victory points until you can finally discuss what you've found with other people and sell your discoveries to them. So in a solitaire game, you're still making victory points just for your own sake, but it is not driven to win by the victory point. You're going to be driven to win just by creation of a trading post. So that is now, I'll explain the cost. So each one of these guys costs $50. So this is 100, 200, 250, 350. So we have 350 gone, and then we have 10 for the horses, and each horse costs 50. So you have another 50. 500 there, and then 2 for this, so you have another 100. And then the rifles, the rations, each rations are going to be $1. And rifles, 10 is going to be 10 each, so you have 100 there. So that grand total is $1,100. That brings you to 0, but you do not need to spend all your money. That's just a suggestion of what I would say if you've never played the game and you just want to jump in. That's something, that's a recipe you can do to outfit. But please outfit however you like if you want to. You can keep money, so you don't have to spend everything. Sometimes it's good. The smaller crews can be sometimes good. But that is the setup we're going to go with, and we're going to do a campaign as we're playing. We're going to pretend to play a campaign game. I'll go through I'll just keep playing until I believe enough has been shown, and then I think I'll go on and play the game myself from there. All right, we're just going to jump in. This game, I'm gonna do a campaign game, but I'm going to explain just a common game first. So a regular game will be timed. You can choose 2 hours or more, and you just play until that amount of time is done. And whether it's the campaign game or a regular game, you're going to do the sequence of play. Now, if you're playing with 2 players, you're each going to play in a solitaire fashion, going through the sequence of play, and just continuing to do this until the end of the time is up. Now, each person might be in a completely different part of the sequence of play, and one person might complete more sequences. It may have more turns than another based on their speed. You can go as fast or as slow as you like. But either way, the game would be done after the allotted time, the minimum time being 2 hours. I'm going to do the campaign, and so what the campaign will be is I'm going to do it by seasons, and I'm going to begin with the spring season, which means I'm going to play a season at a time, and then I will leave the game set up and then continue to play. So I begin with spring. Now, seasons can be anywhere from a half hour to an hour, depending on how much you want to sit down for, or how many seasons you'd like to play. I like sitting down for an hour at a time and just kind of playing it and then coming back again later. So my seasons are going to be an hour long. We're going to begin with spring. Now, spring is just a slight. It will cause a slight effect on play, and you just, whatever the effects are, you will read through it, and each portion of the season will tell you when to apply the particular effect. So for spring, at the beginning of springs, tribes not in adobe settlements move 6 spaces to the east, no further than the Rockies environment. So they'll move this way, and they'll only go until they get to the plains. They'll go no further than the Rockies territory. And then within movement, the rivers are going to be more dangerous in springtime. If I'm using a canoe or crossing a river, I have to roll on the river danger table. But hunting will be better during springtime. I get +1 to my hunting and trapping totals. So those are things that I just have to remember during those points of the game. So I'm going to jump into playing. I'm going to just kind of do a phase at a time and teach it that way, kind of in a tutorial mode. So the first phase is the decide movement phase. Now this sequence of play is very similar to Source of the Nile. And in Source of the Nile, they have you at the very first phase, you pick how much you're going to move, and based on how much you will move, you may have to draw a danger. You most likely will almost always draw a danger. The best type of move to make is where you don't have to draw a danger, is one in which you barely move. So you're going to be drawing dangers quite often. I should also note, and this is rather important, and I need to stress this, but you do not need to choose movement at all. If you're not choosing any movement, you'll just skip every phase that involves movement and go directly to the drawing for encounters movement phase. But anyhow, I'll start with just that phase. So my choices in this phase in deciding movement, I can move from 1 to 4 movement points. But I can only move up to 4 movement points if I am in a canoe going downstream. So I'm not in a canoe going downstream. So the best I can do is up to 3 movement points. And movement points will get you different. It will obviously give you movement ability, but also will give you action ability. So if you're taking a particular, if you want to take a particular action, you may want to choose a type of movement points related to the action you're going to be doing. In this tutorial, I will say that I'm going to go. I'll do 2 movement points. So I'm starting here in Missouri. I'm coming in from Missouri down the Arkansas, and I'm going to do 2 movement points. And so that is it. That is, well, not yet. So I'm going to do 2 movement points. Anything 2 or above, I will have to draw a danger. And if I'm in a canoe going 4 movement points, I will also have to roll on the river danger table. But I am just doing 2 movement points, so I do have to draw danger. So the exploration deck will give us a variety of different random effects in the game. And an exploration card is going to give us information on just different things through different phases. So in this first phase, we're going to be doing the danger. So at the top of every card is a danger. So whenever it's asked to do a danger, we're going to read this top of the card. When we go further and begin to explore hexes, we're going to look into this kind of territory-oriented area, and this is going to describe something on the map. So if we're looking in the Rockies, we'll be referring to the Rockies-oriented terrain. If we're discovering things in this area, then we're going to be looking in the mesa part of the terrain. And if we're over here in the desert, we'll look in the desert area to see what types of terrain we find. When we're advancing into, let me grab my token here. When we're advancing into different areas, there may be a river either happening or not happening. And so if we in this second area of the cards, we're looking at river-related information. And if we go into a particular hex and there is let's say there's a river in this adjacent hex here. If I enter into this area, I'm just going to check to see if that river is going to continue. In this case here, it would turn, and there's a procedure that tells you how it may turn. So this would let you know if something is turning. If there's nothing in an area that we go into, then we check to see if a river begins, and that's what this river begins thing, if there's nothing there. So there may be then instances of looking at if you've discovered a discovery based on particular descriptions of your area. And also we're going to look in to see if there's going to be an encounter in the area. And we will and in this side end of the card will tell us if there's an encounter. And if there during the encounter's move phase, this is what we refer to see if the encounters move. So some of these cards don't have all the information on it because there's just not things happening. There's not rivers beginning and so on and so forth. So in this first phase, what we're going to do is just check the danger, and in checking the danger, we'll be just reading the top of this card and see if it relates to us. Start, I'm doing 2 movement points. So I discard the top card. Another thing I should mention is in these in these exploration cards, these are all going to be face up, and I'm always drawing to look at the next one. But on occasion, there might be a combat or some sort of warpath with a tribe. And in that case, we would look at the other side, which is going to be a warpath table. So just another table on the other side. But anyhow, for my danger, I discard the top card and I look at the danger, and I do exactly what it says. So in this case here, it says roll a D12 event. So I roll. It's an 11. And I look at the table, and it says lightning strikes 1 crew member. Roll D6. 1 to 5 death, plus 1 to die roll if doctor and crew. So I do have a doctor. I roll a die. Someone is dead. So one of my people, I don't know, that's not a great sign, and it's a pretty bad omen. But one of my guys just got struck by lightning. Now, I can pick anyone to die, but if I want to do a random death, I can roll a dice and just compare it to whatever is rolled here. So I like to do the random death. So this could even kill my main guy. So let's see. I rolled a 6, so one of the guides died. Now I can pick them. I could just pick it by myself, but I like to do it randomly as well. So I'll say this is 1 to 3. This is 4 or higher. So my one Shoshone guide just was struck by lightning. Wow. I bet you the crew is a bit concerned. Anyhow, we just watched him die. So that is the danger. Now, I believe in what the danger is saying, at least in Source of the Nile, is that we're being speedy. We're not being super careful as we could. So the higher we go in our movement points, the more dangerous it is. I don't know how. I think lightning just kind of can happen, but maybe we would be more hiding out. I have no idea. Anyhow, so that is the draw the danger, decide movement in phase 1. Phase 2 is movement into unexplored hex. Now, any movement into unexplored hex, no matter what, costs 3 movement points. And so since 3 movement points is your total, you have to be adjacent to unexplored hex to spend the 3 movement points. So if I'm here, it would take me 1 to go here, and then 1, 2, 3. So it would be 4 movement points to get in there. So I'm not going to be able to do movement into unexplored hex. So I go to phase 3. Phase 3 is movement ending in explored hex. So I will be ending in explored hex. So the movement ending in explored hex, I will move through here. I've spent 2 movement points, so I'm going to go 1, 2. Now everyone is on a horse, so no matter what, every terrain type is 1 movement point because everyone is on a horse, except for mountains. Mountains will always be 3 movement points. But it costs me just 2 movement points to move this direction. Now, if there are not enough horses for people to ride, then people have to then use the slower movement points. And in that case, the Alpine is 2 movement points. So it would actually take 4 movement points to move that far if we didn't all have a horse. But we all have a horse, so I've spent my 2 movement points. So that is A. I've done my movement, and I ended in Explored Hex. Now, ending movement, I draw for an encounter. I draw the next card, and I'm going to look in this section of the card to see if there is an encounter in this area. I look, and there is no encounter. So that is phase 3. We've moved that far. Now I draw a card for encounter movement, which is phase 4. There are no encounters on the map, so I don't need to do that. So I go to phase 5, actions and eating. So this phase I'm going to have to eat. I'm going to have to feed everybody, but I can also take actions at this time. And my actions that I can take are hunting, setting traps, which are free. I can check traps, which cost 1 movement point. So you do need to have that movement point available. You cannot have spent it by moving. I can build a log cabin or trading post in a campaign, but I just don't want to do that right now. But that would cost 2 movement points, and I've already spent my 2 movement points. And I could search for pass, mountain climb, and search for animal trails. Searching for a pass would happen only in a mountain, and that costs 3 movement points to see if I can find a pass which would make that quicker. I could mountain climb. I could get to a top of a mountain and look at all these surrounding hexes that are unexplored and map them out. That would cost 3 movement points to do as well. And I could search for animal trails. If we're particularly hungry and not finding food, if I find animal trails, I get a +1 to my hunting rolls. But that too costs a movement point. So I'm not going to do any of those actions except hunting. Hunting is a free action, and in the hunting we would look at the hunting table, and when you would add up all of the modifiers on the bottom of the hunting table and roll the dice. And what I'm looking for is a 5 or higher, and I will have hunted. So I roll the dice. I've got a 3. But if I look, I get +1 per hunter. I have 2 hunters, so I've got the 5. I've made the 5. There is a river there. That's another +1, so that's a 6. There's no lake. There's no animal trails. And it is spring, so it's 7. I've got I needed only 5 or higher to get the hunt. And the number that I get is the amount of food that I've found. So I have 7. I've created 7 food for everyone. I have, because the Shoshone guy did get struck by lightning, I only have 7 people. So I was able to feed everyone. So I don't even need to eat any rations. Anyone who is not fed, you would have to eat a ration for that person. And if not everyone is fed, then we would mark a starvation. And after a certain amount of starvation, if you gather up 5 starvation, someone will leave, but you can erase all the starvation as soon as everyone is fed. So anyhow, I have fed everyone this turn, and that gets us to the end of the turn. Now, if a shuffle card was drawn, we would shuffle up the exploration deck. So anyhow, I jump into turn 2. Now, being a campaign game, I would have set a timer for 60 minutes. So I just keep doing this for the entire time, until the time runs out. And when the time runs out, I would switch to another season, and that would just keep going until I would finish the particular goal of the campaign, which is building a trading post. So I'll just keep going. Anyhow, so we're starting into another turn. I decide movement is phase 1. So I know that I want to go into this empty hex. The goal that I'm going to try to do is I'm just going to look for good trapping zones. Actually, this river is not bad. I could set traps on this river. But I'll kind of keep going for now just to show you. But I should have actually set up a trap. But I didn't. I'm going to go 3 movement points. It takes 3 movement points to move into an unexplored area. So I know that I have to spend 3 movement points. this is a danger no matter what. So I'm going to draw and look at the top card. And so the top card on this will be natives destroy nearest trap. Remove trap. Trap removed can be used again. I have not set up any traps, so that is the way it's going to be. Now, one good thing is these dangers, it's actually a little hard for them to get you. I mean, the way that the deck is seeded, you have to sometimes be on exactly the right terrain, and if you are on the right terrain, then the event will affect you. In this case, there's no terrain; it just directly affects me. But I didn't happen to have a trap, so I just keep going. So anyhow, in phase 2, movement into unexplored hex, that is what I'm doing. This is going to be divided into 5 sub little phases. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I'm lost. So this could end my exploration into this hex right here. Now I have to roll a dice, and I look at the lost table. Now the lost is I roll a d6. If I get a 1 to 3, I'm lost. A 4 or higher, I can continue. +1 per guide or scout. Must stay in the same hex. Scouting is a skill that I can acquire next year when I go back. When I go back to either an outfitting zone or if I go to the rendezvous. But right now, I only have 1 guide. I only get +1. We are lost, so I do not get to move. So the other sub phases do not even happen. So I stay in the same area, and I go into the next phase, which is movement ending in explored hex. I guess in a sense I'm ending in explored hex, but not in this. There was no movement, so I'm just my movement was related to movement into unexplored hex. So I'm just going straight to phase 4, which is draw cards for encounter movement. There are no encounters on the map, so I go into phase 5, actions and eating. I'm actually going to set up a trap this time because I am on river, and that's a good river spot. So I just place a trap there. This is a free action, so I place the trap there, and then I'm going to hunt, which I have to get a 5 or higher. 1, 2, 3. I've got 2 hunters, 4, 5, plus the river 6, and plus the spring 7. That feeds all of us, so we are able to eat. And so then we go to phase 6 is shuffle card deck drawn, and there was no shuffle card. So we go right into another turn. So decide movement. I'm going to again do the 3. I'm going to do the 3 to try to get into this hex. And 3, we look. So this is what the events are commonly like. They will have a darkened terrain mentioned. So crew member slips on mesa, ledge, and falls to their death. I am not on mesa, I am on alpine, so I am fine. So nothing happens, I just ignore that event. And that is the most common type of card. It will relate to a kind of terrain. And if you're on the terrain, then it will affect you. So let's see if I'm lost again. I get a +1 for my guide. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm sorry, I need just 4 higher. I have 4 higher, I did find it. So I'm going into here. So I draw the top card, and what I'm looking at is I am in the Rockies, so I'm looking at this terrain. Now, I draw just exactly what I've found there. I found a mountain there, so I draw. I then draw for a river. So there are no rivers on the hex side of this particular thing we're exploring. So what I'm going to have to look at the right side of the next card to see if a river begins. I draw the card, and there is no river begins on this side of the card. This is also the shuffle deck, so I will have to shuffle after this particular turn. So there is no river, and then I go to the next. I'm going to talk a little bit more about rivers and drawing for rivers. I think it's like a little interesting. So if I'm searching for this hex here, and let's say I do that, and I have put in a And then I'm searching into this. We're going to draw. And I know that it has a river going into the hex side. So I'm going to draw. And this left side is if there is a river on the hex side, what do you look at? So there is one, and so I have to do this exact shape, this exact river shape when I'm now going through this. So now a river is going to be going through this. So that's extending the river. Like if I had drawn this, for instance, it would have to turn, and to turn the river, we would roll here, and it would tell you what hex side it turns to, and so on and so forth. And there's also a fork in there. The other side is interesting, and it will tell you if you need to begin a river. So let's say I'm going up in this direction here, and I draw here. Let's see, I draw another mountain or something like this. Now, when I've done that. So now I draw to see the next card. Now there is no river going into this. It's purely its own hex. So I'm not looking to see if it continues. I'm looking to see on this side if it begins. So we would draw, and it does not begin. So no river is beginning there. So the first one is just letting you know if it's extending. The second one lets you know if there's no river in there, if it's going to begin. So if something does begin, let's say we do draw something and it does begin, in this case here, what happens, I would draw a little source, or if it's a lake, that's actually the end result of the source, so that's the other. So I draw a source, and then I roll to see where it would go. So it's going to go 5, so it's going down river hex side 5 to this. So that is then these both continue. So then let's say he does go into this after or something, and we look again to see it's going to be a tree. It's going to be alpine. Okay, so if they're coming down and he's checking, then now the river, he's got to do whatever it is for both rivers. So it's river ends. So that's interesting. They would both come to an end, and they would end right here as a runoff. So there's varieties of ways it may end. It may end in a lake. If it comes to a lake, that may be considered an ending. It could just go as runoff into the middle. And so there's just, I don't know, there's something interesting about the rivers. I draw the card, and there is no river begins on this side of the card. This is also the shuffle deck, so I will have to shuffle after this particular turn. So there is no river, and then I go to the next phase, which is draw for discovery. I draw the next card, and this is going to be the discovery. This next feature. So if river, discover waterfall, mark with blue X, 10 victory points. There is no river in this area, so I do not find a discovery. So then the next thing will be draw for encounters. So I draw again, and I'm going to look in this part of the section of the card for encounters. And there is no encounter. So there's nothing there. I have went into this area, and I've discovered this mountain area. Now, I then mark that I have explored a hex, and I just mark in any way that I want that I have one explored hex. Now, this can become a victory point and money if I go back to Missouri or the rendezvous and I report that I have found this. And it gives me 1 victory point. But every 1 victory point will get me $10. So this is, I found $10, and I can sell this information back in town. But I'm on this mountain hex, and now it's the action phase. And the action phase is normal. It's hunting, setting traps are free, checking traps. I'll get into checking traps in a little bit. And building, I'm not going to build. And so I could search for, now I have spent three movement points. Whenever I move into an unexplored hex, I have to spend 3 movement points. But if I find a mountain in these unexplored hexes, I can I can either search for a pass or try to climb the mountain if I want to see the surrounding hexes. All in this case here, search for a pass. So searching for the pass costs me 3 movement points. The reason I'm doing this is it will be if I find a pass, a movement goes from 3 movement points to 1 movement point. Now, I've spent the 3 movement points. I get to also use those 3 movement points in any time I find a mountain in my exploration. I can spend it to either climb it or look for pass. So I then I roll in the mountain pass table. I roll d6. If I get a 4 or higher, I have found a pass. I get +1 per guide. I rolled a 6. So it was a 7. I do find a pass. And the pass is shown by just drawing a green line through the mountain. So also in a pass, this too will also get me a victory point and $10 for relaying this information back in town. So I found a mountain and I found a pass. So next, I've got to try to hunt. So my hunting, I've got exactly the same, except I don't have a river this time. So I have fed 6 of my people. I got the 3, 2 for the hunters, and +1 for the springtime. And then that only feeds 6 of the people, so I will have to use a ration to feed the other person. Okay, so then we got to reshuffle this deck. So let me... So we're back in the next turn, so I'm going to decide movement. I'm actually, just for the heck of it, I'm going to go back this way and discover this area. So even though a river is going through here, I still have to discover what else is there. So we will go back. Now, I also know that's a dangerous river, so it's dangerous. If I were to move here and cross it, I would have to roll a river danger table. I'm not crossing it. I'm just going to kind of probably go in and go out. But if I was also, these X's mean that they're particularly dangerous too. So it's springtime, and it's also rapidy or waterfalls in this area. So I just want to go and just kind of look at it anyway, since I might get a canoe or something later on. So anyhow, it's going to cost me 3 movement points to go there, so I'm going to draw for a danger. And it is Mother Bear startled in Alpine. I'm not in Alpine, I am in a mountain, so I don't even need to read the rest of the card. So then I check to see if I'm lost. I've got to get a 4 or higher. I've got a 5, so I'm not lost. So I then will have to draw to look at the next card. It is going to be Alpine. So we draw Alpine. And then, although I do know that there is a river there, I need to check if there's other rivers kind of going through it. There could be cross streams. So I will check. Now this is going to be on this side of the card because there are no rivers entering it other than the one that's already mapped. So we'll check to see. A river does begin. So though there is a river there, we're going to roll in the direction. Now this will tell me where the river will go to. So 2 is going to go this way. So we know something is going this way. Then we check for discovery. Discovery. If in Alpine, which I am in Alpine, in spring, summer, fall, or fall and campaign, which I am, find beautiful wildflower. All right, so I found 5. Gives me 5 victory points. Now, it's not really victory points now. It's just 5 potential ones if I get back and I report what I see. Now, this would turn into $50 too, so it would convert to both if I get back to town. We check to see if there's a discovery. Or, I'm sorry, an encounter. There is an encounter, but not if we're in mountain. We are not in mountain, we are in alpine, so there is going to be an encounter. So we are in the central area, and so we draw from the central area group of encounters. And we draw, and what did we find? We find a Spanish dragoon. Just like Zebulon Pike did. Wow. So anyhow, so the Spanish are hanging out up here, and because of the Spanish, we go and we will roll on the Spanish dragoon table. So I roll 1. The dragoon ignores me and just moves to an adjacent hex. So I roll. They roll a 2. They just move off into the adjacent hex. So that's that. They just kind of look at me, I guess. And then we draw. Now that there are encounters in play, we draw to look if the encounters move. So we draw, remove nearest encounter. So it just disappears and just goes straight back into the pile. We then go into the action phase. I am going to hunt. I might as well do another trap. I'll show you traps here, but I want to keep going for a little bit. Anyhow, so I'll set another trap, but I'll also hunt. I am on river. I get the +1 for the river. I rolled a 5. Plus the 2 hunters is 7. Plus spring is 8. Plus the river is 9. I have 9 food, and I have 6 people, and I can convert the rest to rations. So that gives me 52. All right, we go again. We'll go 3 movement points. Move into this guy. Danger for 3 movement points. Crew slips on Mesa. I'm not in Mesa, so that's fine for me. Then we see if they get lost. They have +1 for the Ute guide, so we do not get lost. We needed 4 or higher. We then look at the next one. It is going to be, again, then we draw to see if there's going to be a river. We are looking at this side because there's no river and there is no beginning of a river. And then we draw to see the discovery. Discovery, if in northern Rockies. I'm not in northern Rockies, or I'm not in mountains, so that's not going to happen. Then I check to see encounter. There is no encounter. So they are going to actually be crossing the river here. So they came in and explored this side, and they are now going to be crossing over into this side. So they do have to roll on the river's danger table. It is springtime, and this is also this is a rapidy zone, so they will have to roll. Desert. All right, they rolled a 1. Extreme rapids, roll a d6 for each crew. 1 equals death. So let's see the crew. They lucked out, so they have crossed the river. And that would bring to the next phase, and there would be draw to see the encounters move. There are no encounters on the map to move. So I then go to hunting. Hunt. 1, 2 for the hunters and 1 for spring. So I did make 5, but there are, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 7 people, so I do lose 2 rations. And then I go into the next turn. So I'm going to go back and show you trapping. So I'm going to go back. To check traps costs 1 movement point, but it takes also 1 movement point to go there, so that's 2 movement points. So I do have to draw for a danger. Half crew on lake. I'm not on a lake. So then I go back. So it's 1 movement point to go back. and I'm going to have to use that other movement point to check my traps. And in the movement, when you're ending an explored hex, the next thing you must do is to see if there's any encounters that have arrived on that hex. So I draw to see if there's any encounters. There are no encounters. So then I'm on the hex, and I'm going to check my traps. That costs 1 movement point, so my second movement point is spent. I just roll the dice. A natural 1 is always no modifiers can be used. So it's whatever the particular thing says. So 1 or less, nothing. I get none of my traps are completely empty. So that was a failed mission for my traps. So then I go into hunting. 7 food, so I'm fine. And I'm gonna do that move again. So this is about the traps. So the traps, when you set a trap, you cannot check a trap until you return back. You have to leave the hex and return back. So you're letting the traps animals get into the traps. And you cannot check the trap until you've left and come back. So I cannot check this trap again. I could go and move over to this trap and check that trap, and maybe I'll do that just to show you. So we'll do that in my next turn. It's going to cost 1, 2, and then 3 to check the trap. So that is definitely a danger. In the night, Indians attack camp. 1 crew member killed, scalped. Ignore if in log cabin. Well, no log cabin. So I like to do the random death. Let's see. 6. My other Ute was killed. Oh, man. So I have no guides, which will make explorations, I'll get lost a lot more. All right, so to go down here, that's crossing again the river. So I have to do another river roll. All right, a 4. A 4 is safe. They were safe. Now, I would say this strategy of mine doing this is stupid because these guys are just lucking out. They're this could easily kill people. So I would be careful of this strategy I'm doing here. But it's showing quite a variety of different things that can happen. So anyhow, they're safe. Thinking about it, I almost want to roll twice once for the X, once for spring, but the rules don't mention that. But it seems like the rivers, especially rivers that would be in rapid areas anyway, these X spaces would be extra dangerous in spring. But that is not one of the rules, so you got to just roll it once. Anyways, so that happened, and I get to now move. It's going to cost 1 to here, 2 here. Then I check to see if there's any encounters. There is an encounter, but not. This other symbol means not in the mountains, but I am in Alpine. So there is an encounter. I draw a random token, and it is the Ute, a Ute tribe that is 3 strength. So it's moderately powerful. It's more powerful than me. I'm sorry, I should be on 2 because I get +1 per soldier. So I went quite a bit forward before I realized that I had not pressed record. So I'm going to go back. I have 2 power. They have 3 power. I forgot I had to add my 2. Each soldier gives me a combat value up to a maximum of 2. So they have more strength than me. I have to choose a policy with these people. So every time you encounter a tribe, you must choose a policy. I just did all this, so I'm doing it again, and I hope because it was very interesting what had happened, and I'm going to keep what had happened. Well, no, I won't. I'll just do it all over. Whenever you encounter a tribe, you must do a policy, even if you're in the same place as a tribe and you are within that same term. You have to have a policy that occurs. So I could either hide and just hope they don't see me, but I won't be able to conduct any actions. I could try to ignore them, just doing my turn as normal, and just see if that works. I could try to trade with them, which is what I'm going to do because I do need guides. I need guides. And I'm going to return my... I already, just to let you know, I already earned 2 guides, but I'm taking them away just to do this again, so it might not work out. Anyhow, I'm pretending, I'm not pretending, this is the way it's going to be. But anyhow, trading is just a trade, as they're like a trading post, and I can trade for them 1 for 1, just as normal, except they don't have... I cannot get rifles from them, and I cannot spend money. I have to trade in animals, rations, guns, particular things. But that's what I will do. I could try to cheat them, which is trying to get a 2 for 1 on trade. And when you cheat them, it pisses them off, and they're going to be... every time you encounter them thereon, they will not like you. But you can get things cheaper. Friendship is just a way to kind of build friendship, so it becomes easier every time you meet these guys, you meet this tribe. And combat is you just straight up try to fight them right there. Now, you take a note that you've met these people. I say this is the Ute Sun tribe. Now, this is, when I say Sun, it just means people of Sun Mountain. Now, I do that because it was easier to put Sun on a counter than the actual name, and I can't pronounce the name. It's Taviwak, Ute Taviwak, which I'm probably not saying right. But I just write that it's Ute Sun number 3. And that, I know I've met these people, so I have no history with them, so I haven't written any history in. So I'm going to try to trade. So trading is a 1 for 1 trade, and I can do as much trading as I like, but I can't use cash. I have to do animals, rifles, rations, and this is where pelts are really good because pelts are $10 each if you had a pelt. But I cannot get rifles from them, so I have to roll a 5 or higher on this table to be able to trade with them. I get particular modifiers. If any previous encounters, which I don't have any, would give me a modifier, that would do something. +1 for each businessman. My leader is a businessman, so he's good at negotiating, so I get a +1 there. And then per guide of the same tribe, I lost my guides. I don't have any guides, so don't get anything there. I get +1 per rifle and +2 per horse as a gift. I'm going to get rid of 1 rifle for a +1. I'm just giving it to him. And I have the +1 for the businessman. Now, in the whole turn I just took, I was successful. So now, we'll see, I might not be. So I will roll. I am not. A 1, again, 1 is no modifiers added. So it's actually, this is interesting. So that's going to lead me to draw a warpath. So I take off the top card, and I draw the next card over, and it's a warpath. All right, I roll a d6. 1 to 4, they will go to combat. 5 to 6, crew and tribe begin a wrestling competition instead, becoming friends, and we roll on the friendship table. So we roll. I rolled a 2, so we are going to combat. So combat is simply, we are going to roll a d6 for each. I'm going to say the black is going to be the Ute Sun tribe, and we are going to be the white. And we will do that. And combat. So I add up the totals. So 3 for their combat strength, 4, 5, 2 to 3. So I've got 3 to 5. The difference between the two is the death that will happen. So 5 to 3, I'm going to lose 2 people. And I'm just going to mark down that I'm going to lose 2 people. But it also tells me how far I'm going to retreat. And I have to retreat from this hex to 2 explored hexes if possible. And I'll just go this direction, 1, 2, and I'll retreat to there. And then I also note that was not friendly. So next time I see them, I get a -1 as a warpath has happened. And that leads us to, that was the end of that. But except I have to figure out who died. So I lost 2 people. I'm going to roll a dice. My number 4 guy just died, which is businessman. I'm not going to say he doesn't exist. So it is me. I died. The leader died. All right. And then the next, one of the hunters was killed. All right. So now I have to choose another leader from this pack. So I'm going to take this soldier, and I'll just say one of the soldiers has now become the leader. So, all right. So that was a completely different turn than I just had that I did not film. But that was that's the way that ended. So we'll keep going. Well, actually now we will draw to see if the encounters move. None of the encounters move. Then we go. The guy who got hit by lightning was a sign. Anyhow, so then we go into hunting. 5. Just one hunter now. 3, 4 for the hunter. 5 for the river. 6 for the spring. I have 4 people, so I do actually gain 2 food. They're making jerky or something out of it. So now I see these as not particular days. It's not like one day. It's like a whole movement of action. It's like a whole trip they're taking. So the hunting could, in the drying of beef and all this stuff could be, the drying of meat could be all within kind of a certain bracket of time. Anyhow, we'll go into the next phase. Oh, and I did draw the shuffle card, so I'm shuffling the deck. All right, so it's a bit dire for these people. They're kind of dying away, and they have no pelts or anything. So I'm going to actually, I want to almost go back and try to still get more guides, but I don't know. I don't have many people, and well, it might be not a bad idea. But I'm going to try to just seek more stuff. So it's going to take me three movement points to go to that. Going to draw from the top of the deck. Rattlesnake bites crew in Mesa. I'm not in Mesa. So then I will try to explore this new hex, which I have no guides now. I don't get any pluses. I have to get 4 or higher. Lost. So then I go directly to see if encounters move. No encounters move, so I go directly to hunting. 6. So this means I've just found a bison herd. So I get the 6 for the bison, and I roll again for even more. So another 6. So I've got 12 bison, plus 1 hunter is 13, plus spring is 14. I'm feeding 4 people. I've got 10 rations. That's not bad. It gives me actually something to trade. So maybe that actually, that's what I'll do. Okay. So I've got 63 rations. So I'm going to go back to that Indian tribe and talk to them. And let's see. Okay, so that's going to cost 1. I'm going to also keep 1 for the checking of the trap. So it'll cost 1, 2, and then 3 to check the trap. So I will, I'll head back and try to talk to that tribe. That's going to cost 3, so I'm going to roll D12 event. I roll a 4. Regular game, or if spring, fall, or winter in the campaign game. Half the crew catches cold, round down. Roll D6. 1 to 4 must stay on the hex for this turn. Plus 5 can continue. Plus 1 to die roll if doctor and crew. So 2 of these guys have a cold. We have the hunter has a cold, and the leader has a cold. So I'm going to roll to see if on a 5 or higher they can continue. So the leader is good to go. The hunter, he has to stay in the hex. Now, I could break them up into a different group and just leave the hunter back. Maybe I'll do that. Actually, I'll do that. Sure, why not? So I'm gonna leave a ration. I'm gonna create a little group. So the crew member, I'm leaving the hunter behind, and I'm gonna give him one rifle and like 5 rations. I don't know. We'll say 3 rations should be fine. And so the hunter is not there right now. I can get more detailed. I could give him his rifle and so on and so forth, but he's got rations to eat, so he doesn't need his rifle right now. And he's not going to move anywhere. So it's probably unlikely that, I mean, I don't know, maybe I should just leave him a rifle. Okay, he's going to leave him a rifle just in case. Yeah, there are troubles that could happen, so gonna give him a rifle, and I'm going to place this here to leave him behind. And we're going to go back. And this costs 2 to get over here. So, again, we're back. I moved. Now, I also draw again to see if there's another. There could be more than one encounter there. So, there's not an encounter there. So, I am back at the Ute tribe that doesn't like me. We just had a warpath. So, I have a negative already. A -1, and I have no pluses. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give the tribe a horse for a +2. Give them a horse, and that gives me a +1. And I'll give them a rifle for +2. So I've got +2. All right. We're trading this time. I'm sorry I didn't say that I was going to trade, but I am trading. So I needed to get a 5 or higher in the trading, so we can trade straight up. I need guides, or it's going to be hard for me to explore. So I'm going to give 1 horse away. That's $50, and I can get a guide for $50. So that's 1 horse down. And a guide comes with me there. I need another one. I'm going to get rid of, so we'll have 6. So I'm going to get rid of a rifle. That's $10. Oh man, I really, really wish I had pelts with me. This would be a way better thing to trade. And that's $10. And this is foolish actually, but I'm going to get rid of 40 rations to get to 50 to get another guide. But that actually has made this a good encounter. So we're more friendly now. So next time I meet him, I get a +1. But I have 2 guides now, so that was worth it. I checked to see if any encounters move, and it does look like something is moving. All 1 to 3 strength encounters move. This is a 3 strength Ute tribe. So we roll on this table, 4. It means it's going to move in this direction, and then I roll to see how many in that direction, 2. So they move off. Now I'm going to check my traps. Now I get a -2 because there's a tribe there, and still no pelts. This is then I'm going to do for hunting. 5, doing good on hunting. So 5, 1 for the hunter, 6, 1 for spring, 7, 1 for the river, 8. So I have 6 people now. So that builds me up some more rations. So Kedok. All right, and then so anyhow, going back to pick up my hunter. Oh, I did not get a hunter. That's right. My hunter was gone. And my hunter back in the other thing has to eat 2. So he's got to go through the entire phase 2. So his whole thing, he's not moving anywhere. So he's just staying put. He's not moving or anything. So he would have to still go through the hunting. And let's see how he does. 3, 4 or 5. He does. He's sick with a cold, but he actually increased rations. So he eats one of those plus 4, so he's at 7, and then that's that. We'll go back. And that ends that turn. Well, this game can keep going on, and so we play out an hour, and then after that hour, we could just quit playing and then come back to it later and play summer, fall, and the winter. It just keeps going in this fashion, and you're interacting with just things on the map, and so on and so forth. And it can just you could just sort of explore the Colorado area and Utah area. Now, this game would keep going until I can finally build a trading post. So that would be the longer campaign game. In the shorter solitaire game, I could go and explore all of the Colorado River and come back, and I would win that. And if I go in another fashion, I could go all the way to the Great Lakes, Great Salt Lake, and then go back to Missouri, and that would be a shorter game. Now, I can do those and gain money and so on and so forth through that. And so doing this would acquire me 100 points, I believe. Is that right? And that is a good thing. That would lead me to $1,000. So if you want to get to build a trading post, it's pretty smart maybe to go explore that stuff and build up your money in a faster capacity. Now, there's a lot to kind of explore in this game. I'll just kind of talk about other things that would happen. So if you're playing a 2-player game, what can happen is there can be another player nearby, and you'll be discovering your own hexes, and they may be nearby, and you need to remind yourself that they actually have not mapped these out yet. So you'd put these on top of the ones that you've mapped out. Now there's only a few of these, so you can't probably put them across everything. So I recommend putting them near where the player is, so they just remember that they have actually not mapped that out. You've mapped that out or whatnot. When they come to it and they actually do explore it, the findings terrain-wise and river-wise will be the same. But they still might find discoveries, and there might be encounters in that area. But they need to still map these out. So the actual source of the Nile had a bunch of these, but we couldn't, for cost reasons, do that. But they would actually have you place these out every time you'd actually just cover something. And so when you did score, you would actually be able to wipe away and know that you've scored this kind of thing. We don't really have that. We don't have enough components for that. So these are just to remind your opponent players that they need to map those out. Now, when going back and actually telling the town that you've discovered these places, you may or may not want to just kind of make a reminder that you've told the place that you've actually discovered these, so you don't get to double score them or later on, or remind yourself of the ones you've at least scored. But you can kind of do whatever you want in that sort of regard. I don't find it too much of a problem, as long as you're keeping track of your discoveries here. Though you can get forgetful and kind of have to go back and remind yourself, so you may want to place a reminder that you've already cashed in or created victory points from your initial discoveries. So if I wanted to go back to Missouri, I then can re-outfit. And in a re-outfitting phase, I just go through the actual just kind of events. I would record my discoveries that I've found, and hexes and passes, and I would turn those into points. So all the hexes that I've been finding, would then become victory points and money, and it's going to be it can lead to quite a bit of money. So the points made convert to money at each point, giving you 10. Trade pelt for money, and that would be 1 pelt for $10. And then if I'm at the rendezvous, once a year rendezvous, which happens in spring or summer, I can go up into this rendezvous area, and this is an outfitting zone. And I can just do all my outfitting there and come back into the game. Now, if I go to that rendezvous, I'd get to roll on the rendezvous table, and that might earn me something. I would then at least once a year, I have to pay for all my crew. So I have to pay the $50 fee for all my crew again, and I can buy different crew at the time. And then once a year, my leader can gain an advancement. So if my leader, in this case here, is a soldier, I could say, well, you know, he's also a hunter now too, or he's also a businessman. He learned how to become a businessman, or a doctor, or a scout. A scout is a skill that you can't begin with, but later on you could earn it, which you're starting to learn the area. And so as a scout, you can kind of begin. You are a guide in a sense. So you get a +1. I could add another soldier skill, so he could be double soldier power. So he becomes more powerful as a soldier. It can be the same skill added. So you'll go to re-outfitting. You may go to the once a year rendezvous. The game kind of can unfold in its own special way. It's just hard to say what you'll find, and it's hard to say what exactly will happen. In this case here, they're having a really hard time finding pelts, but you could have a game where you're just a great boon of pelts, and you have a lot of advantage just because you're finding so many pelts. So you never do know what's going to happen. So anyhow, I might just leave it at that. Hopefully that gave you some idea of how some game is played.